appreciate your effort above and beyond. And Amy Hobson can tell you, we were formulating a license plate replacement plan for you. Amy, do you want to mention that before we go on?
Christina, some of the children at Trinity Place were making inspirational license plate tags for a toy car. So we're happy to share some of them with you.
Thank you very much. You all are live now.
Great.
Okay, shall we go ahead?
Yes, we go ahead, Madam Chair. It's all yours.
Good morning. I am Eileen McMinn, Chair of this committee, and I would like to welcome you to the Friday, September 24th, 2021 Homeless Initiative Advisory Committee meeting. All committee members and staff are participating virtually. We appreciate your patience as we work through committee meetings a bit differently. We are streaming live on our virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through the virtual engagement hub link on the front page of the city website and also linked on the committee page. We also have an option for the public to listen and comment live by phone. Dial in 855-925-2801, meeting code 9836. Shall we go ahead and take the roll? Christina, do you want to do that? Please make sure to mute your microphone if you are not speaking. When you have a question or would like to speak, unmute your microphone. Please remember to mute your phone, option *6 when you are done speaking. Committee members, as we call your name, please say a quick hello. Christina, are you going to do that, or do you want me to do that?
I can do it, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
I can call the names from the minutes.
If you'd like to do it, please feel free.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Sarah Copley.
Hi, present.
Jason Desai.
Yeah, he's not able to join us today because he got married yesterday. He's off on his honeymoon. So
Elvia Diaz. Amy Hobson.
Good morning, I'm here.
Tamia Jones.
Good morning, I'm here.
Eileen McMahon, I'm here. David Nash. I don't see him. Tara McCracken.
Good morning, I'm here.
Yep. Tim McElgay.
I'm here.
Okay. Joelle Steininger.
Present.
Randy Stout.
Yes, I am here, guys. Good morning.
Good morning. Jennifer Teague is not here.
yeah, she had another obligation this morning.
We also have present, of course, we have Brian. We have Carla Mensah. Did I say that correctly? And
you did.
David Bartholomew. So Carla and David, would you like to say a few things for the people who weren't here a little bit earlier when we did say hi to you?
Sure. I am Carla Mensah. I am the Vice President of Member Services over at Via Health, and I'm just a guest today.
And Carla's joining us as a guest this morning. She has applied for appointment to the committee on the county side. She lives outside of Buncombe County, so the county commissioners are considering making an exception to the rule. So she's in process. David, you want to give a brief intro, and I'll update everyone on your application status.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Good morning, everyone. My name is David Bartholomew. I'm the director of the Homelessness Prevention Program at Pisgah Legal Services. and I will hopefully be approved as soon. But I'm really excited about joining. I'm filling the seat, I believe, of Parker Smith and then Ben Manny, who have both ended up having to leave the committee. So I'm excited about the potential appointment.
Okay, well, thank you all for being here today. And we do have a quorum. The first item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and the only item on the consent agenda is the minutes from the past meeting, July 30th, 2021. So can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda of the minutes.
Second,
I second.
all in favor?
We'll do a roll. Yeah, we'll
Do the roll, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
you got to do a roll call vote. Madam Chair, you want to do the roll call vote?
Okay, so when I go through the roll call vote, do I only call the people who are here? I guess.
Yes.
Okay. Sarah Copley?
Yes.
Okay. Amy Hobson?
Yes.
Tamia Jones?
Yes.
Eileen McMinn, I vote yes. Tara McCracken?
Yes.
Tim McEllier?
Yes.
Joelle Steininger?
Yes.
Randy Stout?
Yes.
Okay. The consent agenda has passed. The next item on the agenda is the fiscal year 2022 Emergency Solutions Grant, ESG, approval of finance work group recommendations for funding. The finance work group did meet and reviewed several requests for continuation of funding from agencies. We do have a report on that, which was included in the materials for the meeting on the HIAC webpage. I don't know if everyone is everyone aware of that? We do have materials for the meeting posted on the city website for the HIAC page, and those were there. Those were posted there. Brian, do you want to review those in a little more detail?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So again, the Finance Committee met last Thursday. We heard from applicant agencies, just giving an overview of their applications for this year. There were lots of new things in Emergency Solutions Grant. The applications this year, different questions being asked. A lot of emphasis both on the ESG side as well as the continuum of care side. You know, we knew this was coming, but a lot of emphasis on, you know, how agencies are ensuring that their services are being delivered in a racially equitable fashion. They're very concerned about the inclusion of people with lived experience of homelessness being involved in the decision making. And fortunately, we had Randy join us as part of those proceedings. We had all renewal applications. We did not have any new project applications. We had roughly, I think it was 25 or so thousand dollars more in requests than we had available. So I think there's actually a misprint on the or a misstatement of that on the materials that were sent. We had $127,628 that were allocated this year. Typically in the past, we have leaned more heavily towards housing stability efforts rather than emergency response. And there has been a requirement at times that we spend at least 60% of the allocation on housing stability and limit the emergency response portion of the allocation to 40%. There was no such requirement this year from the state on that. And the finance committee felt strongly that we should just split it right down the middle and push a little bit of extra funding towards the emergency response activities in light of just how difficult it has been for emergency shelters to operate during the pandemic. Certainly an overall increased need for shelter. I know that, Amy, you guys had some really unique challenges that were sort of regulatory in nature that made it especially difficult for you guys. And to me, I know Helpmate, was operating, out of a motel, just not even out of your regular shelter. Increased need for shelter for kids. It's been a challenging year. So the finance committee did just decide to split the allocation evenly. Caring for Children Trinity Place Shelter was recommended for $20,000 in funding. Homeward Bound's homelessness prevention program was recommended for $42,814 in funding. Helpmate's emergency shelter side was recommended for funding in $43,814. And Helpmate's rapid rehousing program was recommended for funding in the amount of $21,000, which brings us to $127,628. As always, the finance committee, it's tough. They are stuck with making some decisions because there's always more in request than we have available. Unfortunately, we're not an entitlement community for ESG funds, so our allocation is pretty small, but it's important to the agencies that receive this funding. So a lot of good discussion. We have other members that participated in those proceedings. Sarah, Eileen, Randy, if there's anything you'd like to add about the committee's meeting last week and the decision, please feel free to do so. But that's kind of where it landed. It's yeoman's work, and I'm grateful that we have the team that we have on that particular decision-making body.
I have a question. Sorry, and I didn't double check these before the meeting started, but did we really give Helpmate more than they requested for rapid rehousing? I don't recall that.
Yeah, I believe we did. I'll have
Okay, that's all right.
Yeah. Go back and make sure. In the application summary.
I know we fooled numbers around a little bit, but okay.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Just looking at them right now. Mm-hmm.
If I remember right, didn't that not have to do with we gave them more because they had to rehire new, clientele or whatever?
Well, yeah, I think there was, concerns about, ensuring, quality and sufficiency of staffing. And then it really boiled down to just, a little bit more money that was available by freeing some dollars up on the housing stability side. I think, just the fact that to me, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't you guys still holding some rooms at the hotel when they're needed for overflow capacity? Is that correct?
Yes, sir. We have 6 rooms that we keep.
Okay. If there are there any more questions about this from people who are not on the committee or people who are on the committee? We do have a resolution proposed for the HIAC to approve the recommendations from the Finance Committee, and that a resolution was again included on our materials. So if there are no questions, could we have a motion to approve the recommendations?
Madam Chair, I have a quick question, just for
Okay.
clarification. I won't be voting, I'm assuming, on this because there's a conflict of interest.
Right, yeah,
Okay.
you're right.
Thank you.
And same for Tamia as well. So. So we need a motion and a second and then a vote.
Right.
I'll make the
motion.
motion. Okay, I'll do the second.
Okay.
Okay, so I will go through the whole list. And if you don't vote, you abstain. Is that I think that's the proper way to do it.
I think you recused for conflict of interest.
Okay. Yes,
Yeah,
Ms. Rhodey
Councilwoman.
has raised her hand. We now
Yes.
have
So this
another.
is a matter of procedure. So you have to, my understanding is that you have to vote to approve the recusal of the members, and then you'll know who's eligible to vote, and then the vote happens.
Yeah, I think in normal circumstances, yes, but when there's a conflict of interest and it's been disclosed, still.
Right, that's the vote. You have to vote to agree on that.
Yeah. Well, then I guess we'll need a motion and a second for that as well, Madam Chair.
Okay, so for each person who is being recused,
No, someone could make a motion for Amy and Tamia to be recused due to conflict of interest. It's second, and then you would take a roll call vote.
okay, anybody else needs to be recused? Just Amy and Tamia? Okay. Can someone make a motion?
I motion to recuse Amy and Tamia.
Second, please?
I second.
Okay. So I will go through the roll. Sarah Copley,
Approve the resolution or approve the recusal.
and do I call on Amy for this?
No.
No, okay. I will vote to approve. Tara,
Approve.
Tim,
Approve.
Joelle,
Yes, approve.
okay, Randy.
Approve.
Okay, so the motion to recuse passes.
Madam Chair, I didn't catch who made the motion. I got Tim's second, but I didn't catch who made the motion.
Joelle.
It was Joyelle with Randy seconding.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And so now we will vote on the main motion, which is to approve the decision of the Finance Committee to recommend funding for certain groups in the ESG process. Sarah,
Approve.
I will vote yes. Tara,
Approve.
Tim,
Approve.
Joelle,
Approve.
Randy, Randy, are you there? Can you unmute for a minute?
Oh yeah. Approve.
Okay, so the motion passes, and the recommendation of the Finance Committee for Emergency Solutions Grant Funding is hereby approved. So, next item on the agenda is the fiscal year 2021 Continuum of Care Notice of Funding Opportunity, and Brian will talk about that.
Yeah, so this year it was unusual in that the continuum of care, it has for the 25 years that I've been involved in that funding process, it's always been called the Notice of Funding Availability, or the NOFA. This year they decided to change it to NOFO, so it's the Notice of Funding Opportunity. They changed it. So the announcement came out last month. We have in what's called our annual renewal demand, we have $1,774,234 available for eligible renewal projects. This year, there are also bonus dollars available for additional domestic violence, either rapid rehousing or permanent supportive housing projects. There's $107,170 available for the DD, for a new or expansion DD project. And there's also $88,712 available for a new or expansion permanent supportive housing project that is not subpopulation specific. So we did publish the announcement about the availability and the application process for these dollars, and received letters of intent from both Helpmate and Homeward Bound, obviously for all their renewal projects, as well as the intent to expand their, for Helpmate, expand their existing rapid rehousing efforts. And then Homeward Bound will be looking to expand one of their permanent supportive housing efforts. And then included in the annual renewal demand is $67,500 that is targeted for operations of the Homeless Management Information System, HMIS, that Emily is, that's her key role at the city, is working with that particular system. That particular project, it's actually included in the annual renewal demand, so that it's actually, it competes with the rest of the activities. One thing that is different this year is they typically estimate your annual renewal demand available at only 94% of what the total amount would be. This year they allocated 100%. So we won't have to be trying to figure out where to cut projects, or how to cut, or how to put some of them in the second tier of funding. So that's, certainly good news. There's also some additional planning grant dollars that come to the city to help operate the homeless initiative and support all the activities around the compliance and participation in the development of the consolidated plan. There are a variety of obligations for those planning grant dollars, and we're trying to figure out exactly with a little bit of increase what specific activities we could include in our application for those funds. They're just an additional allocation. They're not ranked or scored. So it's beneficial to help support the operations of this committee and all the other work that goes along with supporting the continuum of care work that has to happen throughout the year. So it's a good bit more money than we have been allocated in the past. It had to do primarily with the increase in the allowance for, or the value of fair market rents in the community that David and his team at the Housing Authority applied for and received, and we got an increase in it was almost 30% increase in the value of that rental assistance. And so HUD made allowances for cities that had increases in FMR. you got an increase in funding availability. So that's certainly helpful, but rents continue to go up, units continue to be scarce. So we have challenges that remain on that front. This year's in looking at the consolidated application, which is the portion that the city is responsible for compiling, there are some different weights being placed on particular aspects of the application this year. There's a strong re-emphasis on housing first. Basically, if you're not a housing first project, don't even bother to apply because you won't be considered. They are also placing considerably less weight on system performance measures this year because they know everybody had difficulties related to the pandemic. However, they've made it clear that there will be considerably greater emphasis on system performance measures next year because they want to see that we've strategically aligned all the extra dollars that have come as a result of COVID, in particular the ESG CD dollars, the 2 rounds of funding that we got totaling just over $2 million, as well as the allocation of home dollars that our Ford County Home Consortium will receive, targeted specifically to address homelessness. The additional 47 emergency housing vouchers that the Housing Authority will receive as part of the American Rescue Plan. The folks in the Special Needs Assistance Programs Office at HUD want to make sure we've strategically aligned on that, so they've made it clear that they want to see reductions in the number of people who experience homelessness in next year's system performance measures reports, as well as reductions in the length of time that people spend homeless and improvements in the other system performance measures as well. Lots of emphasis on inclusion of people with lived experience in both the funding decision making as well as the policy development and decision making. We are fortunate to have Randy's presence on this committee to get us moving in the right direction. We certainly want to try to get more input from folks who are experiencing homelessness and have a variety of things underway to engage them more. Randy and I've had several conversations along those lines. And then a lot of emphasis this year on racial equity concerns. And so I think it's no secret that the pandemic really brought to light just the disparities that exist in communities. I think this group is well aware that people of color make up only 11 or 12% of the population of Buncombe County, but comprise about 30% of our population of people who are experiencing homelessness. It's really very disproportionate. And so they want to make sure that we're taking steps to address that. And so lots of emphasis and questions around that in the consolidated application, and I imagine in the individual project applications as well. So just some things that are different this year. The process for our review will run similar to how it's run in the past and how we just did it for the Emergency Solutions Grant. Application deadline middle of next month, I think October 13th. The finance work group will meet the week following to do its final considerations. And then we will need to have a special meeting at the end of October to approve the Finance Committee's recommendations and then complete the consolidated application with the rankings of the projects as they will be recommended by the Finance Committee for submission to HUD. And so lots of work. It's I say this with my tongue only halfway implanted in my cheek, but I think everybody needs at least one near-death experience every year. And the work on the continuum of care application every year has been my annual near-death experience for the last 24 years. So we get to do it again this year. And with all the changes, it's certainly going to be an interesting process. But I'm glad to see we have additional funding coming available, and I hope that we'll make good strategic use of the additional allocations that have come our way that were COVID related, and that the community's goal of ending homelessness, that we got to start by reducing it. And so lots of efforts underway. I think Homeward Bound's acquisition of the Days Inn on Tunnel Road to convert to 85 units of permanent supportive housing is great. We need more permanent supportive housing units. We need more housing units that are accessible and available to people who are exiting homelessness. There's still plenty of work to do. And we'll get through the continuum of care process just like we do every year. It was nice to get a pass on it last year and not have this particular process looming overhead with the pandemic. So it was good to get a year off, and now I'm just having to get reoriented with it. But the deadlines are already posted. We have letters of intent. We'll see what the applications look like and go from there. So if anybody's got any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Questions, anybody? Well, thank you, Brian. So far, we're all happy with the way you're presenting this, and
well, thank
wish you continued success in taking care of Buncombe County.
It's a team effort. There are a lot of people who work, and we have agencies that participate in helping me understand what's transpired within their particular sector and populations served. I reach out to HelpMate every year to get updated numbers on domestic violence. Certainly, there's more emphasis that's has come to the fore with youth homelessness. Amy's been part of a work group that has been meeting regularly to talk about strategies to address youth homelessness in the community. We have that going on. So we get fed a lot of information from stakeholders throughout the community in this, and certainly, within our department, it's a team effort with, HMIS data that we have to put in there. Emily's charged with, updating all the information about coordinated entry and things that they ask about. They want to know about our veteran homeless population. So Joelle always feeds me information, and Tim feeds me information. So it's a team effort. I just put the data in the tool and the narrative in the tool and hit submit. It's really everybody else that's doing all the work. But thank you, Madam Chair, for that.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is ESG CV back home update. And I think that's Tamia. Is that correct? Tamia, are you going to tell us about that?
Correct. And she participated in the group that's been working on that and came up with this recommendation. Emily couldn't join us today because of another meeting obligation, but Tamia, we'll turn it over to you. And just if you want to give us a little brief background on what the Back at Home program was all about. We engaged it. Y'all have been meeting about it. I'll let you take it from there.
Thank you. So the Back at Home program helps agencies that use ESG CV funding with managing the funds. We have meetings every week so we can answer questions and just follow up. They provide us with help with landlord outreach, and it just left my mind with landlord outreach, and with in helping us do unit inspections if we're unable to do it. At CAM, with the other members of our coordinated entry, we would like to disengage with the Back at Home part. because we feel like it's giving us a lot more admin work where we're having to do double data entry and reporting, and it's taking us a lot longer to get our funds. We have to submit department checks, so it's taking us a lot longer to get reimbursed. So back at home is just kind of like a go-between that helps us manage the grant. But like I said, we're all in agreement that it would be more efficient for us not to have that, because it just creates more work and it just delays things. So we would just like to back out of that and just go through ESG. So it would just cut out the middleman and make our lives a little bit easier.
My only question is why it was there in the first place. Just for convenience, and it's no longer convenient. Is that?
Well,
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, that was part of a statewide initiative with the infusion of the ESG COVID-related money, really focused on rapid rehousing efforts. And since it was such a large infusion of dollars and such significant expectation around landlord outreach and engagement, that they structured it similar to how, I forget which hurricane it was. It was structured similarly, housing placement and getting folks back into stable housing after a hurricane some years ago. It was modeled similarly to that. It was again, as Tamia mentioned, it's administratively burdensome. It slows things down. And so it was there to try to create more of a consistent statewide approach on several different administrative aspects of the program. But, we're not the only continuum of care that's had this experience of, it being an administratively difficult project to again, double data entry, double reporting, lots of different issues with it. And we don't want to do anything that slows down the process of getting people housed. Ultimately, that's what this is about. And since there's a specific sunset date on the use of those funds, we wanted to make sure that we used all of them and maximize the community benefits. So we opted into Back at Home initially thinking that, okay, it would be great to have some statewide, training and support, in particular around landlord outreach and engagement and getting people oriented on the use of ESG dollars, because it's a steep learning curve. And so, that training was certainly, I think, helpful and beneficial in the beginning. It's just slowed things down and created some inefficiencies locally that haven't been good. So I think the request from the group is that that this committee approve our withdrawal from the Back at Home framework, and then they'll be able to run with it on their own and get the dollars spent, get people housed more quickly, and create a little bit less work for themselves. Does that sum it up? Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Brian.
That makes sense. Shall we have a motion to approve this resolution?
I make a motion to approve the resolution.
And second?
I second.
Okay, so I will go through the roll. Sarah,
Approve.
Amy,
Approve.
Tamia,
Do I have to recuse myself from this?
No, I don't think so. This is administrative. It's not financial.
Just making sure. Okay,
Yeah.
I approve. Thank you.
okay. I approve. Tara,
Approve.
Tim,
Approve.
Joelle,
Approve.
Randy. Gotta unmute, Randy.
Are you still with us?
He seems to be still with us. He seems to be muted. He may have taken a little break. We don't need his vote for it to pass.
No, we
So
don't.
We
Okay.
will, Randy has not voted, but the motion still passes.
Who made the motion? I caught, who made the second? I caught the motion from Sarah, but I didn't get who made the second.
Yeah, sorry guys, I was out for a moment.
That's okay.
Okay.
Joe,
You want to vote yes, and we'll record you as a yes vote?
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay.
so Joel, you were the second? Thank you.
Okay, so that motion passes. The next item on the agenda is membership updates from Brian. Do we need, you want to fill us in again?
Actually, the next item was the American Rescue Plan, the home funding
Oh,
allocation.
I'm sorry, I missed
Yeah,
that.
you're fine.
Okay.
You're fine. I included a link in the meeting materials when they went out to the HUD guidance that was just issued a couple of weeks ago on the eligible uses of the dollars, just all the regulatory piece. It's a 95 or 97 page document. Again, it's just under $4.7 million. It's been allocated to our 4-county consortium. It will certainly be a topic of discussion at their upcoming meetings. There's a considerable amount of community engagement we'll need to do on this. Obviously there are plenty of needs for those dollars here in Buncombe County. I suspect there are in the other counties as well, but we don't know what we'll see in terms of applications, but they do have to be allocated, across the entirety of the 4-county consortium. So, and we will do some community engagement. There'll be discussion. I hope we'll get some input from this group particularly. And then there will also be, discussion, at the housing consortium with their membership as well. So we'll have to submit a written plan for our use of those dollars by the end of the year to HUD. It's an opportunity to really have an impact. There's some eligible uses for home dollars that in this particular allocation that typically aren't eligible uses for home dollars. So it will be interesting to see what feedback and input we get from the committee about how to strategically deploy those funds, again, in an effort to reduce and end homelessness. These are dollars that are specifically targeted to address homelessness. It's not, the regular allocation of home dollars that we, some of it we use for tenant-based rental assistance, certainly for folks who are experiencing homelessness. But a lot of it goes into, shoring up gap funding for low-income housing tax credit development. So we did some outreach to talk to some of those developers to see if they might be interested in using these dollars specifically for a permanent supportive housing project. Didn't get a lot of warm and fuzzy feedback from those developers. So we'll just have to see, what the process looks like for community engagement, what input we receive. But the link is there. I would certainly encourage you to read the announcement. There's also a series of webinars that HUD is doing over the next couple of weeks that were just announced a couple of days ago in collaboration with the National Alliance to End Homelessness. I will forward the links so you can register for those webinars to the group in case you're interested in hearing what they have to say. Each webinar is going to be focused on a different particular topic of it. Some of it may be more interesting to you than others. I think the fourth one is really more on the administrative details. So for those of you on the program side may not be interested in participating in that one, but you never know when you'll get saddled with an admin task. So, but I will send the link for the registration for those webinars to you here as soon as we conclude the meeting. I just got it a couple of days ago. So. But any questions on that particular allocation? Again, it's American Rescue Plan, and lots of work to be done on it.
What is the 4-county consortium? What are the 4
Yeah.
counties?
Yeah, so it's Buncombe County, Transylvania County, Madison County, and Henderson County. Certainly, I'm aware of potentially eligible projects in Henderson County. I'm not so up to speed on what's happening out in either Transylvania County or up in Madison County related to homelessness. Sarah, you may be, more in touch with, what's happening in the more outlying areas since you guys grant regionally. You may know of some things that are potentially useful for these dollars in those areas. If you have any ideas, I just know that there are agencies working with people experiencing homelessness in Henderson County. I'm not so sure about the other 2 counties.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, Brian, do you want to go to membership updates now?
Yeah, absolutely. So after our last meeting, we have some vacant seats currently. We convened a work group of folks who are working on identifying and recruiting potential nominees. Of course, Carla, who joined us this morning, has applied through a vacancy at Buncombe County. David Bartholomew with Pisgah Legal Services has applied to on a city council appointed slot and would fill Parker Smith's unexpired term, and then he could be reappointed for a full 3-year term if he if we don't drive him crazy and he runs off screaming into the night. But we do have other seats that we're going to need to fill. Obviously, one other seat that we haven't identified a person for that particular seat. It was suggested that we reach out to someone at Dogwood Health Trust, but the person we're going to reach out to isn't working there any longer. So I have some ideas on who else we could speak with out there. And I'll follow up with the nominating work group and run that idea past y'all and see what we come up with. So we still have one other seat we've got to fill, but pending appointments, hopefully we'll be back up to our full 16 membership here in the next month or so. Just fingers crossed, and we'll be at full strength again.
Questions or comments for Brian?
Or anybody else who was part of that group? Sarah, you were there. Eileen, you were part of it as well.
I think just with the changes in housing needs, particularly from the pandemic, I know that I've learned a lot about is the change and increase in youth homelessness. Families are different right now, and with the pandemic and job dislocations, I think that this is an area that I hope folks on the committee can, whoever is recruited does have an experience with that. I think that was a gap last year, and I think with the presentations this year, and particularly the applications, have been really educational. And Tamaya and Amy particularly could probably speak to that better than I could. But I think while we're making decisions about funding investments and, you know, somewhat policy impacts. I think going forward, it's going to be really important for us to consider how to support youth and their families. You know, there's a lot of dynamics that go into youth homelessness that we've been educated about. So it will be interesting to see as this year goes on and what happens with the pandemic, how that changes again. I just see that as an area of support.
Yeah, agreed. And Amy, do you want to speak about that work group that you know we've had for going on for several months now, and just some of the topics that have come up within that group? Do you want to chat a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Brian and Emily Ball have been working with all of the providers in Buncombe County, working with youth. So Youth Outreach is represented, Alighted Group Homes, Asheville City Schools, Buncombe County Schools, the McKinney-Vento liaisons. We've been getting together just to really identify some of the challenges and what we are all doing individually and what we can do so we are not kind of recreating the wheel, but we can work more collaboratively. A big piece is kiddos aging out of the system. So we really have a gap in services. We realize it's been going on 16 to 21, 22, that age group. And so just looking at what we have done historically, what has worked and what has not. And yeah, would welcome other participants to brainstorm with us, but it's a pretty cohesive group. Yeah, just looking what we can do to support these kids in the community.
And I think, Tara, somebody from your staff has been part of those meetings as well. I can't recall who right off the top of my head, though.
Yeah, I believe Lance Crawford, our youth programs manager. Yep.
That's right. Yep, that's right.
All right, shout out to Lance. He's awesome.
Yeah, he is. He is. Yeah. Yeah. So I totally agree, Sarah. Actually, Amy and I had a lengthy conversation about this the other day. You know, just for youth aging out of foster care that, you know, have not had great experiences in that system. They're ready to get out of it, but they don't always have the support that they need in place to have a successful housing placement. So we not only need the additional housing units, and Alighted has, you know, started to dip their toe a little bit more in the housing waters, which we're grateful for. And I think they're going about it the right way, starting out small, figuring out, you know, how to put it all together, and then, you know, scaling up. So that's been great to see them step in there. But we've got to have the right sorts of supportive services around those young people, you know, when they're going into their own housing for the first time, and maybe they don't know how to budget and aren't aware that the electricity bill's got to be paid by a particular. As you said, there's lots of dynamics there. One of the things that we are being asked to focus on next year that we did a couple of years ago, but we are being asked to commit to do as part of our point in time count in January. In our consolidated application this year, we're being asked to commit to a specific youth homeless point in time count as part of that next year. So, you know, HUD's looking at this. For the last several years, they have had 3 or 4 rounds of what's called youth homelessness demonstration program dollars that have gone out to a variety of communities. There's a lot of data that's come back on that now. So I think we'll see an increasing emphasis on youth homelessness, which I think our group has agreed, and I think it's easy to understand that the more upstream interventions that we have with that particular population, you know, if we can prevent them from becoming homeless and get the supportive services that they need earlier on, then we don't see them as long-term clients at AHOPE 15 years later. So
exactly. And, you know, the data showing that a number of the children aging out of foster care are also victims of the opioid epidemic. I think the interaction with addiction and recovery, those supportive services, super, super, super important.
Yeah.
Well, and if we have a gap in services, Caring for Children, we were the only independent living program teaching those life skills to that age group. And we lost funding 3 years ago. And so there is nothing in the city of Asheville for that independent living, kind of transitional living.
Yeah, a huge gap we need to work on. Thank you for that reminder, Amy.
Yeah, a challenging population, and every time that our group has met, I have learned things about youth homelessness that I did not know. It's been very eye-opening, the particular challenges that I know that you face, and just lots of work to be done and lots of dynamics. And I mentioned this to Amy when she and I spoke about this the other day, that I remember back in 2002 or 3, hearing at a National Alliance to End Homelessness conference that the big waves that we would see in people becoming homeless were youth aging out of the foster care system and combat veterans returning from Iraq and Afghanistan. And both of those things came to pass. So, at least I think we've got a good nucleus of a work group to kind of hash through these issues and come up with some good recommendations. And I'm glad that group is formed and has been meeting regularly.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for those comments. Do we have any public comment today? Who knows? I don't know of any.
Yeah, we didn't receive
This
any
is
by
Christina
mail.
Harris.
Yeah,
Christina?
Yes, so we do not have any callers in the queue, but there has been a few correspondence through chat, which these messages can definitely be provided to you all, via email and then put in the minutes. Do you have a question, Brian? You're
No,
muted.
Okay.
Yeah, if you'll just share that information from the chat, that would be great.
Okay, I definitely will, and it will be reflected in the meeting minutes, so it will be available for the entire community.
Correct.
Okay. If there's nothing else, can we have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second?
A second.
We need another roll call for this?
I don't think we do for
Okay, all right, okay.
So we
I will
we'll
make
see
a
you.
point of executive privilege and adjourn the meeting.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next month. So,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Keep up the good work.
You too. Bye-bye.